Are you trying to figure out how to get things done? Are you trying to look for knowledge that can actually help you do something, be better at what you do? Hi, I'm Joyce Mbaya, founder of Zydii, where we provide affordable online courses for Africa. This is the place for you, the Zydii podcast, where we have inspiring conversations with amazing people. And the ultimate goal is to help you know more so you can do more.
Mental health is a really big deal, especially during COVID, where we have a lot of time and there are very many people who are spending a lot of time alone or do not have any time for themselves. So there's really quite a few extremes, and this is really challenging people. And this is the time when you're hearing everybody talking about, you need to do this, you need to grow, you need to learn a new skill, you need to do this. But the first step, especially into keeping your mental health and creating a sense of self-love and even just figuring things out, begins with first realizing that you do not have to do everything right now. And people deal with stress in completely different ways. So in this podcast, we're going to talk about who you are versus who you want to become, with a lot of underlying focus on mental health as well. And we'll start with this quote that says, self-love is not something you reach and that's it. It can be a long journey. Notes from Joanna. Now, I don't know about you, but during this season, the biggest thing that is happening is a lot of internal dialogue. Your mind has time to spare, and things you could easily ignore because you are busy can no longer be ignored. And this is both a really good thing and a really bad thing. Why it's a good thing is because to become the best version of yourself, you have to acknowledge that there are some things you need to work on. There are some wounds that you have buried that need to be reopened so that they can heal. There are some things or some people that you need to cut out. Or now that you are no longer constantly attached to that person or people, you realize that there are certain things that you think about differently. Or even if you are stuck with people who you do not have the same values, these are times to reevaluate, right? And you have time to think, and you realize that you can't hide from yourself. And all the good, the bad, the ugly is revealed. There is absolutely nowhere to hide. And now, once you realize that you have no choice but to face things that you've probably been ignoring for a while, what is the next step? So step one is acknowledgement. The next step is, once you have figured out all these things, do not fall into the hole of self-hate. Because most of the times we are our worst judgment. We really judge ourselves and we are our worst critics. So what you need to do is, instead of self-hate, choose to love and forgive yourself. And love, like the Bible says, love covers a multitude of sins, but there's a lot of power in discovering that you are not perfect. You will make mistakes. You will continue to make mistakes. And that is why you're a human being. And sometimes mistakes you learn from, and sometimes mistakes are just that. They are mistakes that you realize that you need to do things in a different way. But when you learn to forgive yourself, you stop digging yourself into a hole of self-hate. Because once you keep digging yourself into a hole of self-hate, things that are destructive come in, whether it's avoidance issues, whether it's drugs, whether it's alcohol, whether it's habits that you develop. But when you love and forgive yourself, you give yourself room to grow, right? So step one is acknowledgement. Step two is not self-hate, but self-love and forgiveness for yourself. Because there's always room and a chance for change. It all depends on whether you take the chance. The next step is, what do you do, right? So you've acknowledged, you have forgiven yourself. The next step is, do something about it. And sometimes this can be very overwhelming because you're thinking about how am I going to do this? Where do I start? This is pretty overwhelming. And it can definitely be very overwhelming to think about a huge drastic change, especially during this season. But do not feel like you are pressured to do everything right now. So how about just picking one thing that you want to improve or change in your life, whether it's just waking up and making your bed and doing that consistently for 1 week. Because what happens is your mind is a muscle. The more you do these little things that feel like small victories to you, or you might even not acknowledge it as a victory, but just a small change, the more encouragement you give yourself to take steps to do even bigger drastic things. So even in this time, if the only thing you have to tell somebody is, I learned how to just make my bed in the morning and that created space for me to leave and do something else. If that's all it is, do that. So pick one small thing, focus on that, do it consistently, and you start gaining confidence to keep on trying different things. So in this season, remember, love yourself, forgive yourself, accept that there are things, and there are wounds, there are people, there are situations that you definitely need to work on, and then take action, even if it's just one small thing, and do not feel like you have to do everything right now, because nobody knows what you need better than yourself. And sometimes pressure, people buckle under pressure and do nothing at all. So don't fall into that trap. Do one small thing. If you have a personality where you want to do absolutely everything and you can't do it, do it. But I would advise you to start with one small thing. So love yourself and just focus on those 3 things during this season. And hopefully that helps you shift from who you are to who you want to become, even if it's in one tiny little area of your life. And with that really, really short podcast, I hope this has enlightened or given you some encouragement, or even just something nice to listen to as you are probably sitting in your house. You finished watching Money Heist and Tiger King. Or these are the 10 minutes where you get to lock yourself in the bathroom and just figure out, just take some space for yourself because you have no space, especially if you're a parent. So have a wonderful week, have a wonderful day, and see you in our next Zydii podcast. This week's episode has come to an end, but the fun doesn't have to stop here. If you have any questions, suggestions, or feedback, head over right now to Twitter and Facebook and like and share, comment, get involved. Let us know what you think, what you want to learn next, and join us next time.